Looking back, I was 8 years old, out on the dock with my old zip code, catching them fish till mama called me home. It's those fond memories from the past, like the sun going down on my last cast. In my mind, you know right where I wanna go, 'cause fishing, it's in my soul. It was passed down to me from the days of old. You'll find us on the water if there was a way. It's been said my papa, he wrote the book on catching big reds and 20-pound snook. I wish I knew all the things he knew today, for he's the reason why we are this way. And he put fish in our souls to stay. There's something about the water that'll give you peace, all by yourself or with your family. Live salt strong and wet a line today. There's nothing better on a Saturday night than an ice cold beer and a fish fry, and talking about the big ones that got away. Fishing, it's in my soul. It was passed down to me from the days of old. You'll find us on the water if there is a way. It's been said my papa, he wrote the book on catching big reds and 20-pound snook. I wish I knew all the things he knew today, why we are this way.
Hi guys, as I mentioned previously in the very first video, I intend to, at the end of each fishing trip, just give a short presentation on venomous wildlife that we might encounter while out fishing, either on the boat or on the beach, and basically what can happen and what type of first aid we can do while we're seeking further medical advice. So obviously this presentation is going to cover stonefish, but this discussion applies to all venomous fish that we may come across while out fishing. So basically the delivery system on the venomous fish is very similar, just that the location of these spines at various parts of the body depending on the species itself. So what we're going to concentrate on is the stonefish, but don't forget we have other species as the scorpionfish, as well as the lionfish, which we all know about. But the stonefish that we'll talk about can be found here in our creeks and along the coastline, as well as there's another species that can be found out in our reefs. Now the dorsal spines on this fish are venomous. There's 13 of them. The ones towards the front are the largest, and depending on the size of this fish, these can be a couple of centimeters in length and have great potential for penetrating the flesh quite deeply. Okay, so if we look at the middle spine here, this representation of the stonefish. As we can see in the center, here's the spine itself. Depending on, like I said before, depending on the size of this fish and which of the spines along the back it is, these can be quite considerably large or long in length. But they are very robust, very strong, and capable of penetrating various materials that you might be wearing while out on the boat or spearfishing. On either side, there's a pair of venom glands on the stonefish, and obviously within these glands, this tissue is the venom. And on the outside here is a sheath, or it's just the skin of the animal, encompasses the spine itself, and basically just prevents and protects the spine and the venom gland from external forces. So the system itself is what we call passive. So basically the fish has no control whatsoever on how much venom is injected and how many spines are involved. It's all down to how the victim comes into contact with the fish itself. So basically the sole of your foot or the palm of your hand comes across the top of the spine and then pushes downwards as you go to grab hold of it or you go to stand on it. Obviously the spine is going to go up into the tissue, and as that's happening, this skin is pushed downwards. Okay, and as you can imagine, it'll be wrinkling up as it comes all the way down here, and your foot, the sole of your foot's coming down and pushing further and further down. Obviously this pressure from the weight of your hand or the sole of your foot and this wrinkling of the skin will compress the venom glands, which then shoots the venom up and deep into the wound itself. Okay, once this happens, you'll know about it. Some of you probably have been stung. The wound itself is not really too much of a thing to be concerned about. It's not going to cause any severe injuries, typically speaking, but you are going to be aware of it. So, but like I said, it's a passive thing. So depending on the severity of the envenomation is dependent on the size of the fish. So obviously larger fish have larger venom glands, and then also depending on how many of these spines penetrate you. So here, this video here is just a short video of a stonefish on a research vessel. You'll probably recognize one of the characters here that's looking at this. But it gives a clear example of the amount of force that is behind compressing the venom gland that injects the venom. It's quite impressive.
How much of that deadly spine Jamie revealed from under the algae without hurting the fish, and how powerfully the venom ejected.
See the venom come out then?
I sure as heck did.
See it then.
Wow.
It goes clean through wetsuit booties.
Like a fan. Here he goes again.
Yeah.
Wow. Sorry, little fella.
That's it. Don't need to squeeze, so just push it on one side, slightly as it goes in.
So it's quite impressive. So what's going to happen? So local, as in when the spines penetrate the tissue, it's immediate, intense pain. Okay, you're not going to mistake it. Very obvious, really. You are going to get some swelling, depending on how many spines inject you and the size of the fish, which obviously equals to the size of the venom glands. This swelling can be quite significant. Okay, it can go beyond the ankle, it's the sole of your foot, and as far as up to your knee, and maybe even further in most severe cases. The pain continues to increase. Even though the instant contact with this fish is going to be extremely painful, that pain will increase in severity for a period of time. You can begin to see some discoloration happening. This is a pigmentation, purpley blue colour. It's nothing to be worried about. This is not necrosis, it's not tissue death. It's just a pigmentation that tends to be seen in some of these victims. Where it might look concerning, but it's nothing to worry about. The swelling is happening because the venom itself actually causes the blood vessel walls to be leaking. So it basically punches holes in the blood vessel walls and plasma leaks out, and hence why we get this swelling. Obviously, the more venom injected, the more severe this swelling can be. Systemic symptoms, signs and symptoms. So this means symptoms that might arise that's away from the sting site and elsewhere in the body. So sweating, we can get some nausea, even vomiting, and this can be some abdominal pain as well. Now, a patient can also complain of lightheadedness or dizziness. This can be an indication of low blood pressure, and this again is can either be, if it's a severe case, the venom can have a profound effect on the heart in very rare cases, but also because of the swelling causes the blood vessels to leak. If enough fluid's been leaking out, if you've got swelling stung on the foot and you've got swelling past your knee and up into your mid-thigh region, that's a considerable amount of fluid that's left your blood vessels, so you can get dizzy and low blood pressure. But in most cases, when people are lightheaded and dizziness, it's their body's response to the pain. And sometimes the response can be that the blood pressure drops slightly, and so hence why they become lightheaded and dizziness. However, it can lead to fainting or collapsing. Again, this can be typically this is the response to the pain. However, in rare cases and severe cases of envenomation, it can be due to the effect how the venom actually has on how the heart beats. But that's very rare. Typically, it's on how the patient responds to pain. So what can you do for first aid? First of all, we don't apply the pressure mobilization bandage. You know, this is a classic first aid technique that we use for snake bite and some other envenomations. However, in venomous fish envenomation, we don't apply pressure mobilization. It's a no-no. Okay, the patient's unresponsive, place them in the recovery position and check the airway, make sure it's clear, and obviously check for breathing and pulse. Most of the time, airway and breathing should be okay, and pulse. They're just unresponsive due to the pain, and as soon as you lie them down, they should make a recovery. It's the same with the lightheadedness. If people are feeling lightheadedness or dizzy, don't wait for them to fall over where they can potentially have hurting themselves. Get them to sit down, or if it's bad, get them to lie down. If the problems persist, then just raise the legs, and that should help recovery. It tends to be transient, i.e. it's only short lasting, but just make sure that they're safe and comfortable. If possible, I know this is a big if, but some vessels do, some of you do out on your boats have a small gas burner to do a bit of a cook up, and if that's the case, you can heat up some water. Warm water is excellent first aid for these type of injuries and venomations. Causes pain relief within a very short period of time of submersion. It's quite easy to do if you have the facilities available to you. Now, I do say the temperature not exceeding 45 degrees centigrade. I know we don't have thermometers with us. However, you know, test the water before you get the patient to put the hand or foot in. Make sure it's not too hot, because temperatures from 46 degrees onwards, prolonged immersion tends to cause skin damage. So we try to avoid that. When the patient starts to complain that the pain is returning, this is normally an indication that the water temperature has cooled down to a point where it's not being effective. That's normally around about 41 degrees in temperature. So obviously you're going to have to reheat the water or add warm water to reheat it to make sure it's doing its therapy. Now, the reason behind this is we know that the venom itself is sensitive to temperature in the laboratory. However, it doesn't seem to make sense into it's actually being damaged or denatured in the victim when it's immersed in hot water. And the reason behind this is that you can have the victim's foot or hand immersed in hot water for an hour or a couple of hours, where you've been maintaining the water temperature correctly. It's providing pain relief, but as soon as the patient removes that hand or that body part out of the water, the pain instantaneously returns. Okay, there are other reasonings behind why hot water immersion is effective, but that's beyond this simple presentation. So hot water, if available, is the way to go. It's instant relief. Also, what you can do is consider giving something for the pain, such as paracetamol. Probably not going to help much, but it's a start. And just to be seen helping helps the victim a lot. Try not to give or do not give ibuprofen or aspirin. These types of medication, even though they're good at reducing pain, they also have a profound effect on blood clotting. And the fact that we already have leaking blood vessels because of how the venom works, we don't want to be adding to that complication just because the blood can't clot anymore. And general advice, and I'll always give this, and I know some of you won't, but all penetrating marine injuries, especially venomous marine injuries, should go to a hospital for wound examination. Infection rates are really high in certain species of envenomations, and they don't come to light until a few days later. When I say don't come to light, is that the infection tends to be happening deep down in the tissue, so you don't see it, and by the time it gets to the surface of the skin where you have an indication there's an infection happening, it's pretty well spread underneath the tissue and requires some significant interaction with the surgeon to give it a good clean. So always attend the hospital if you can. I know you're not going to, but I've got to give that advice. You're probably all going to forget what I've said. However, here in Australia we have an excellent app which has been put together by medical experts, and it covers all venomous creatures within Australia and gives you the first aid. The app is awesome. Unfortunately, it's only available for Mac or Apple users. And the good thing about it is once it's downloaded to your phone or to your app, it works even if you don't have a signal. So if you're out in the reef, you're not too sure what to do, this app will work and give you first aid advice on what to do. So it's free, great, doesn't take up much space, and it's really useful. It's a great reminder, and it gives you first aid procedures. So really useful. So to get hold of. Okay, well, that's the end of my presentation, guys. I appreciate you watching the channel. I'd be grateful if you could subscribe to the channel and spread the word. It's not about me, it's about PTSD, how it affects our veterans, our current serving personnel, as well as our first responders such as AMBOs, fireys and police officers. PTSD within the paramedic service is 20 to 30% of personnel that will develop PTSD, and that's only those that have come forward. So it's a genuine mental health issue that's I've gone through personally and still do, and I know of others that do too. And the reason this channel is lots of people like to fish, and fish is a known and proven scientifically that helps people with PTSD. So get the message out there if you can, and if you know people with PTSD or people just working in those services, take them out for a fish. It'll do them a world of good. Thanks for listening, and appreciate any comments that you can give. Thanks very much, guys. Cheers.